Providence. Yesterday, those who learn 3 chapters of Rambam daily began studying the laws of mourning, the day that the hostage bodies were given back. Well, not all of them were given back. We started to read about mourning because we as a Jewish people are mourning today. We're mourning the grandfather, great-grandfather. We're mourning the 2 little Bibas children who, as Israel said, forensics shows that they were brutally murdered in November 23. Mourning the fact that they did not give back their mother Shiri's body. So yes, we're mourning. And how do we go forward? By divine providence, 41 years ago, the Rebbe related to a prophecy of Zechariah that was given on the 24th of Shvat, which is tomorrow's date. And in this prophecy, he says he sees this red horse amongst the myrtles, which is a reference, says the Gemara in Sanhedrin, to tzaddikim, to the righteous. And he says that the Talmud says that the red then turns to white, because red references anger and punishment, and white is a reference to atonement and peace. Now, the rest of this prophecy, the main theme of the prophecy, is how God is angry at the nations of the world. And what's he angry about? Because of the suffering of the Jewish people and that they are complacent. Shananim. They're complacent. They do not care. They are indifferent to the suffering of the Jewish people. How true is it today? But Hashem says, I will comfort Jerusalem. Like we say to a mourner, I will comfort you, says Hashem. I will rebuild Jerusalem. I will rebuild Zion. And you will settle there. But there's one condition, and that is that the prophet screams out, Ad Mosai, until when? We have to be in pain by seeing this kind of cruelty. We have to be in pain for what is happening to our people. And we cannot be complacent and indifferent. And the Rebbe said there something fascinating. He says, why do we blame the nations if it's not their thing? They have nothing to do with it. He says, first of all, they have 7 Noahide laws, and one of them is you're not allowed to see an animal in pain, so how much more so people? How can they just sit by and see the cruelty that Hamas is treating the hostages? How could they? And not say anything, and not really care to stop this monstrosity. So that's why they have a hand in the cruelty of Hamas, because they have said and done nothing about it. They sit complacently. We cannot be complacent. Says the Rebbe, where does the complacency of the nations come from? From our complacency. That we don't cry out to God like Zechariah did. Ad Mosai, until when do we have to sit in this exile? Until when do we have to suffer? Until when do we have to accept such monstrosity, such suffering, such pain? Bring Mashiach already. Bring comfort to your people. Bring comfort to the world. Bring the world back onto its true axis. The axis of good and positivity and holiness and godliness. And as you say in that prophecy of Zechariah, at that time, I will rebuild the temple. I will rebuild Zion. And I'd like to point out one more thing. In all this craziness, in all this pain and cruelty, we witnessed a most remarkable miracle where, I don't know, by the time I'm doing this video, there were 6 buses that had bombs on them that the terrorists put 9 put on 9 p.m. instead of 9 a.m., and they detonated with nothing on the buses instead of a full bus. It was a remarkable miracle. I think it's 6, maybe even more, that have been found. And thank God there have not been any loss of life, any injuries, where could have been hundreds of people injured and many slain. So that Hashem, in all this craziness, shows us miracles as well. What he asks of us is to scream Ad Mosai, to believe in the ultimate good of this world that will come to one day when Mashiach comes. And we have to ask him, and not only ask, but hear and scream and cry, we want Mashiach now, as the Rebbe told us that we need to do. And when we do that, when we show we care, hopefully we'll light a fire in the entire world that they care. And when that happens, we will totally eradicate this evil called Hamas and the Gazans who took these children. It wasn't Hamas who took them, it was the Gazans who took them. You know, in Germany, during the Holocaust, there were many Germans who were called Chassidim Masailam, who were the righteous of the Gentiles, even though they were in incredible danger by the Nazis. You don't see that in Gaza. They're all following Hamas. It is an absolutely depraved society which educates their youngest children for murder and hate. And we have to treat them as such. Good Shabbos.